Hey, First Period, it's Miss Mac. I'm here with Year of Mice and Men Chapter 4 preview. Get excited. We only have 3 chapters left, 4, 5, and 6. And Chapter 6 is really short, so we're almost done with the book. So Chapter 4 definitely has a theme, and that theme is loneliness. And we look at 4 characters who are lonely and kind of how this affects them. And the characters are lonely because they're isolated. And if you're isolated, that means you're alone or separated for some reason. So all these characters are kind of like an other compared to the other people on the ranch. And different things isolate them. For some, it's their race or their gender. It could be because they're disabled, either physically or mentally. So we will look at that. So the chapter starts where most of the men on the ranch have gone into town on the weekend to have a good time, to party it up. George has left, Slim has left. So the only people still here are Lenny, Candy, Curly's wife, and Crooks. And Crooks we haven't really met that much yet. So Crooks is the stable buck. His job is to help take care of the horses. And so the first thing is that he lives away from all the other men who live in the bunkhouse. He lives right in the stables near the horses themselves. Not only that, but a really significant thing about him is that he's black. He's the only black character on the ranch in the book, and he talks about his childhood a lot, and we learn that he was the only African-American family in Soledad, so he's been racially isolated pretty much his whole life. The other guys on the ranch don't really hang out with him. Maybe he gets to play horseshoes with them sometimes, but that's pretty much it. And another thing is we see the N-word used a lot in this chapter, sometimes 5 or 6 times in a paragraph. It's crazy. And Steinbeck does this on purpose to show how Crooks would have been treated during this time. It's not meant to be pleasant. It's super racist. Even if these guys on the ranch don't think they're being mean to Crooks, they still use this language to talk to him. They still kind of isolate him because of his race. And because of this, he's pretty angry and bitter. And we kind of all see this come together when he's talking to Lenny. Lenny's hanging out in the barn, playing with the puppies while George is away, and Crooks is annoyed at first, but he eventually invites Lenny in to talk because he soon realizes, which kind of George does the same thing, that you can tell Lenny anything and he's probably not going to remember, and he's definitely not going to judge you. So Crooks starts to kind of confess things about his life, and he talks about how lonely he is, so lonely that sometimes he imagines things by himself. He talks about, his family and how he misses his family. But then very soon it turns and he starts to tease Lenny, make fun of Lenny. He says, yeah, it's nice, Lenny, you have George. But what if George didn't come back from town? What if something happened to George? What would you do? And Lenny starts to get concerned. He's like, what happened to George? He's very protective of George. What happened to George? What did you do to George? And Crooks realizes that Lenny does not understand that he's kind of joking with him, and he starts to backpedal because he knows what Lenny did to Curly's hand. He doesn't want to get beaten up by Lenny. But we see that he almost realizes, Crooks, that here's one person that he can kind of make fun of and be better than, because Lenny is so gentle and kind of just simple. So he really kind of is really mean to Lenny for a little bit. And we see, though, that's because he's been alone for so long and he's so angry that he's alone. Then Candy comes in, and it's a little awkward at first because Candy doesn't usually hang out with Crooks, but soon enough, Candy starts talking about the dream to Lenny, because remember, they have the plan to get the house. And Crooks is intrigued and kind of almost asked if he can go too. So all these kind of misfits want to join in this dream and to have people to be together, which is kind of sweet. But before they can really get into it, here comes our 4th character in this chapter, Curly's wife. She's back, and she comes in saying she's looking for Curly. She knows he's in town. She's bored. She's looking to talk. And they're pretty rude to her. They're like, yo, we don't want to talk to you. You have a husband. Get out of here. And she gets really bad. She's like, do you think I don't ever want to talk to people other than Curly? He's super mean. All he does is fight all the time. A really great guy, she says, being sarcastic, obviously. She says, so sometimes I want to talk to people, and one-on-one you guys will talk to me, but if you're in a group, you'll never talk to me because you're afraid you'll get in trouble. And you feel bad for her almost, but then she kind of, again, like Crooks, turns mean. She calls them all the weak ones too. She knows, just kind of Crooks can have power over Lenny, she kind of has power over these 3 guys. And one of the things that she does is she threatens Crooks, that she said, Crooks, I could say that you did something to me, that you touched me or looked at me inappropriately or said something to me inappropriate, and you would be out of here so fast. She threatens him basically to lie and get him into trouble for no reason. It's a horrible thing to say. And Crooks just kind of is really insulted by this and just kind of stops talking and participating in the conversation. So it's this really horrible moment when we see how her loneliness and how she's being treated by Curly makes her treat the other guys on the ranch and really rudely, really angrily, because it's the only people she can kind of talk to that way or have power over. She also flirts with Lenny one more time. She asks what happened to Curly's hand, and the lie is that he got caught in a machine. And she looks at Lenny and she's like, oh, I like machines. Like, she knows Lenny is the machine that broke Curly's hand. So again, she's an interesting character. That's one of your questions in your homework is like, what are your favorite characters and who are your least favorite characters? And people always feel really strongly about Curly's wife. And then at the end of the chapter, after she's so mean to Crooks, he decides he doesn't want to be a part of their dream because he is kind of reminded that is racially isolated and different. And it's really sad. So he just kind of goes back into being by himself like he was at the beginning. So it's an interesting kind of in-between chapter. Not a lot of action, but a lot of conversation, a lot of interesting things about character. And for your homework, it's a little bit different, but you have to find some quotes, and the quotes are kind of themed by loneliness and isolation. So it's like, why is Crooks lonely? Find a quote. Why is Curly's wife lonely? Find a quote. Why is Crooks mean to Lenny? Find a quote. Why is Curly's wife mean to Crooks, Lenny, and Candy? Find a quote. So we're kind of seeing like, how does this loneliness affect their behavior? Think about it. If we're kind of maybe lonely all the time, we're in quarantine, how does this affect how we feel? Then you have some short response questions that are just your opinions, why people are treated differently, who are your favorite characters, as I said. And then question number 3 is kind of interesting. You're going to rank the 9 characters in the novel, only 9, from most powerful, number 1, to least powerful, number 9. And there's no perfect right or wrong answer. It's kind of your opinion, although it should make sense. And I already did number 1 for you as the boss. He's obviously the most powerful because he's the boss. And they're going to take 4 of your choices and explain why they're ranked where they are. So these things about like race, gender, disability, that may give someone like less power, or people depending on their job or whatever, or their race could maybe have more power. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. Office hours are Tuesday and Thursday if you need help. Good luck. Keep doing your daily Mac challenges. Some of you are so good. You post every day. It makes me so happy to see. You guys are awesome. Miss you. Bye.